All right, we are officially live. Wednesday afternoon, the third day of the month of July. My name is Mike. Happy to be here again with my co-host / better half, Mr. Paul Half Dollar. Paul, how you doing, my friend?
Doing good today, Mike. There's a ton of stuff that's been going on just in the last 12 hours.
Yeah.
So,
All right, so prior to us going live, we kind of got an idea of what we're going to cover. But before we dive into the primary subject matter of this afternoon, want to acknowledge and welcome those that are in the chat. So let me pull out this so I can see who's chiming in. And as always, if there's anyone watching, and if you're bold enough, courageous enough to let us know where you're watching from, as well as your name, I will definitely acknowledge your presence here in the chat. So let me see here. As of now, I don't see anything. What do you see anything on your side, Paul?
nope, I see Mark from Florida saying, "Good day, fellas. How's it going, Mark?"
Okay, yep, just popped up on my end. So, Mark, how you doing, my friend? Appreciate you. And as always, any questions or thoughts or anything in reference to what we're talking about or things that we should be talking about, let us know in the chat so we can definitely acknowledge it and hopefully be able to squeeze it in amongst the 10 to 12 subject matters that we already have. So, but as we just get started, man, Paul, what's on your mind? What do you want to start this live stream off with this afternoon?
Well, there's a lot on my mind, but I think that the first thing I'd like to start out with is that I think that this is so far the most important week of 2019 for gold and silver. And I say that because, this is a holiday shortened week for as far as the markets are concerned, right?
Yeah.
Closed for the 4th of July holiday. In addition to that, we have the jobs report coming out on Friday, right? And the jobs report always provides, cover for the cartel to smash gold and silver prices. Mm-hmm. So, and then on top of that, we got hit pretty hard on Sunday coming out the gate when the markets opened on Sunday evening. Mm-hmm. So, and then just yesterday, right, Tuesday, so that was Monday. Tuesday, gold was down like 2%, and then it ended the day up 2%. It had like this massive outside reversal yesterday during the afternoon, right? So this is a pivotal week right now because it does appear that the cartel is starting to lose control of the markets finally, right? I was speaking with Harvey Organ last week about this. Just yesterday, I was speaking with Bill Murphy about this, and he thinks that the cartel has indeed lost control of the gold market. And ultimately, it's silver, the one that they're absolutely petrified of. But I think this is a pivotal week because if they can not succeed, or if they do succeed in getting gold and silver prices down, what does that mean, right? Because everybody is expecting the smash to come, right? Open interest is still through the roof. The bullion banks have been naked short selling the crap out of gold and silver to hit price, but price keeps on bouncing back. Popped back again yesterday. So looking right now, I got a last price of about $14.20 and silver last price of about $15.30. Things are looking pretty good. So I think that what I think the meaning of this week is that if the cartel is not able to smash gold and silver down, preferably I think their downside targets are under 14 in gold and under 15 in silver. If they're not able to do that, I think that is showing that the market has in fact finally turned to our advantage here, Mike.
All right, now you say turn to our advantage. So what are you anticipating as far as price? Touching above 1,500, or what do you think that an ideal number would be for them to continue to suppress? Beneath 1,400 or at 1,400 now, or what?
Well, not so much in gold. I'm not looking at the specific number other than the psychological level, right? Mm-hmm. You could also argue 1377.90 or wherever it is, just to push gold through that multi-year resistance, which is now support. Mm-hmm. But with silver, I really think the magic number is 15 because that's sitting right where the 200-day moving average is. Mm-hmm. And if they can pound silver below $15, they got close yesterday, right? It was like, I think 15.05 or 15.07 or something that silver dropped down to yesterday, which was a great flash sale opportunity to anybody who happened to be watching the price at that time. Yeah. But part of the reasoning is because if you lose, right, the 200-day moving average from a technical standpoint for all the technical guys out there, that's a very bearish signal, right? People make decisions based on, is it above or is it below the 200-day moving average? Is it above or below the 50-day moving average? Yeah. So if they're not able to do that, what to expect from here on out, I don't know, because the prices are going higher. The question is, how fast do they rise? And Is there something that's going to lead into a reset? And then do they just blow up and go parabolic? I mean, I don't know. This is exciting, right? And I'm watching with excitement and hoping that I can just keep adding to my stack here and there whenever I can, because I know prices are starting to move, right? I mean, it's pretty clear now that the bull market is on.
Yeah. Interesting. So you're looking for that price move. As I always mention, I'm hoping that there is no real movement as of yet, because it buys us more time. But yeah, I see a couple thoughts in the chat there. Let me go ahead and check in with the chat. We got Whitney says government has printed 10 times amount above BOF money. I'm not sure. Therefore, stocks can keep going up. Listen to Martin Armstrong. So we're talking about money printing there, it looks like. So I'm assuming it doesn't have anything to do with hyperinflation.
Yeah, right. But here's the thing, right? Stocks can go up, right? But what does that have to say about the value, right? Because there's a difference between price and value. If the currency is hyperflating away and the stock market's running rampant, well, that's not really a good thing.
Yeah.
The best stock market in the year last year was either Zimbabwe or Venezuela, and I mean, that's not a place you want to have your money in the stocks.
Very true. Very true. So I'm looking at I was trying to pull up the price, and so I see it's 1536 and 1419 as of current amount. So I'm trying to see. So what is that? So 50. So if we go get above $16 an ounce in silver, I'm assuming that is an ideal price target of them actually losing control, or what? What do you think about the $16? Is that really exciting?
I think it's high. Yeah, I think it's higher than $16. I think it's somewhere around $17.50. I think that was the line in the sand that they kept enforcing all throughout 2018.
Yeah.
I could be off a few cents either way, but I don't think the excitement's going to come into silver, right? Like it came into gold until silver breaks out above $17.50. Yeah. But here's the difference, right? Gold is at multi-year highs, right? 6-year highs. Yeah. Silver can't even get above its 52-week moving average. You know what I mean? So it's like silver has so much more to go before the excitement returns, right? Which is all the reason why now is the absolute ideal time for silver. Just because it has not yet shown that it has turned. Now, if you think that it has turned, which I do, then the move is going to start happening very soon.
Yeah. So I'm looking at so I'm just scrolling back over history now, and I'm looking at, let me see, go back. This is all of, so we got high at 1608. This is February. Let me scroll back a little bit in the timeline, just to get a better idea of what we're up against. So go back to what, 15 or 2015?
No, 2007. Well, 2017, the line was like 1750. I mean, in 2018.
Okay,
right?
2017. Okay, so looking at the chart now, let me see. It was the peak was 17. Oh, there. Almost. It was 18. So April 19th, 2017. On Wednesday, it was 1820. So yeah, so definitely, and it looks like after June 14th, it just dipped down from 1657 down to 14, and it's been hovering. So yeah, that would be an interesting thing to see for sure if it gets back to that 17. Yeah, man. All right.
Indeed, and the gold to silver ratio is still above 90, so it's still presenting that wonderful once in a cycle opportunity to not just take advantage of the arbitrage, but it's a 2-for-1, right? Because if price is going up and then it's going up even faster than gold, at the end of the cycle, you can get free gold with that silver.
Yeah.
Right?
All right, so let's check. We got more people in the chat now. And so it looks like we have Busy Mountain says, what did Trump do? So assuming he's talking about the title and the possibility of recommendations for the Fed. So we'll get into that in a minute. And then it says, Dave said, precious metal soon to blow. And Hugh Tran says hello. And we got Beans and Rice says, getting greetings from North Korea of the North. So someone looks like I'm not sure if they're in North Korea or not, if that whatever that is. So yeah, what are your thoughts on that? And so I want to touch on that. So since Korea of the North, what are your thoughts about President Trump having crossed the border, being the first active city president to actually go into North Korea? Is that something that is promising? Because I think I'm reading something about him possibly inviting Kim Jong-un to the White House. And so Kim Jong-un has never been to the White House before. So we got a lot of historical aspects going on. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, it is exciting. You know, it was one Korea, right, forever, right? So it's not like it's the entire history of the United States that presidents haven't gone to North Korea, because North Korea just became a country, right? But, you know, I mean, sure, it's good news, right? Because ultimately we all want, you know, peace in the end, or at least I think we do. You know, but I go down, you know, I don't have a lot of faith in the fact that I think it's, you know, what we'll call a dog and pony show, right? So I think it's all, you know, photo opportunities more than anything else, right? Because, you know, the military industrial complex needs a permanent enemy, right, to justify its budget. So, you know, if it's not going to be, you know, Russia or China, right, because we're not going to go up force to force against them. We need to go against lesser countries, and North Korea is certainly one of them. Plus, it does that thing where, you know, shares the border with China, right? So you've got that whole, you know, not in my backyard type situation going on, where it can be used as a bargaining chip against China. But, you know, in the end, give credit where credit's due. Sure, it's a good thing. You know, I wish that we didn't have our military presence everywhere, right? The huge military buildup in South Korea included, you know, but we'll just see what happens out of that.
Yeah. One thing I'm starting to sense is that it looks like President Trump is trying to diffuse all the supposed nations or so-called enemies of the U.S. So we have, of course, Russia in the mainstream media has been painted as the enemy that we must keep guard against. Then we got North Korea. And so if he's making buddies, you know, just showing, you know, as you say, horse and pony show, if he's shaking hands with, laughing and giggling with all our so-called enemies, that really beats down the whole war drum narrative of we got to go defend the free world against these terrorists, these dictators. But yet, because we have a president that's looks like he's trying to diffuse all that tension between nations, which is ultimately could be a good thing if it turns out to be that way. So it really puts a damper in the plans of those who prefer war. Definitely, if we are buddying up with Kim Jong-un and he comes over here or something like that, it'd be hard to paint that he's such a terrorist overall that we need to go in there and remove him if he's So I thought that was very interesting though. But let's get in a little bit to your article about hyperinflation warning. What are your thoughts about that? I want to pull it up on the screen so people can see.
Well, I don't know if you want to go on a timeline or not, because right last night is even other news that predates that, right?
Okay.
So just yesterday after the market hours, right? So it's like, you know, announcements like this are always after market hours, right? Because gold had a huge reversal yesterday. So obviously they're not going to announce this during market hours, right? So what does that say about, you know, who's truly on gold's side and who's not on gold's side, right? But yesterday afternoon, you know, Zero Hedge broke, gold's rising because President Trump just nominated Judy Shelton, gold standard advocate, to the Fed. Right. Well, here's the thing, right? If you go on whitehouse.gov, it lists President Trump's nominations, right? And it's not there, right? He didn't nominate Judy Shelton to the Fed. The only thing that he did, right, was say, you know, I intend to nominate Judy Shelton via his own personal Twitter account, right? Not even the official President of the United States Twitter account. So, you know, all that's happening is there's this trial balloon being floated out there. There hasn't been an actual official nomination as of yet, right? But, you know, so we keep coming back to this, you know, whole, you know, he's doing all this great stuff for the Fed, putting in all these gold bugs. Well, you know, I take a different approach of that for several reasons, right? First of all, we saw what happened with Steve Cohen and Herman Cain, right, if these guys are gold bugs. So if Judy Shelton's a gold bug, right, I don't know if she's a deep state globalist. I don't know much about her. But let's just assume she is a gold standard advocate for now. You know, there's a couple things going on there. First of all, I don't think the Fed is an institution that can be fixed, right? There's no reforming it. There's no fixing it, right? So, you know, going into the institution as gold bug advocate, it's futile in my opinion, right? That's the first thing. The second thing is, you know, could it also be that there's a little bit of sort of like a bargaining chip going on here? Because we know that President Trump has been very vocal and very critical publicly about Fed Chair Jerome Powell, right? One of the things that he's been saying is, you know, we need to get more like Mario Draghi over there in Europe, start printing money, turn the spigots on. If we only had lower interest rates, the stock market would be much higher. So, you know, trying to get the Fed to cut interest rates, right? Well, So if you're going to nominate, which he hasn't yet, but that's what's the word, the rumor's been speculated that he's already nominated her. But if you're going to nominate Judy Shelton, that's kind of like, throwing ice on the Fed's fire, right? Throwing water on the Fed's fire to put it out, because he's saying, okay, well, fine, you're not going to reduce interest rates. Well, we'll nominate a fiscal and monetary hawk who advocates the gold standard to the Fed, right? If you want to play hardball. But so I think it's a bluff, right? It's a bluff. It's not going to happen, first of all. And second of all, are they really going to appoint a gold standard advocate to the Fed, right? So then the third thing, right? So there's just so many points to be said about this.
Yeah.
Another point is what happened with Alan Greenspan, right? We saw Alan Greenspan was probably the perennial gold bug nominated, not just to the Fed, but to chair the Federal Reserve, right?
Yeah.
And what did he do for gold? Nothing, right? And then the thing that irks me about it is people say, it's going to be good for gold. He hasn't done one thing that's good for gold yet, right? I mean, we know he tweets about the economy all the time, right? Just yesterday and just today, actually tweeted, that we literally have the best economy ever, right? Again, said today, said yesterday.
Yeah.
He tweets about the record high stock markets, right? If he was going to do something good for gold, wouldn't he have done it already? Wouldn't he have fired off a tweet that would be good for gold? Because he fires off a tweet for anything else. He singles out companies. He singles out, he doesn't just single out the stock market. He singles out the S&P 500 specifically, right?
Yeah.
So, I don't see it coming. Here's the thing that I think that's going on, though. I think that this is kind of distractionary. Mm-hmm. Why? Because Kristen Lagarde, right, for the International Monetary Fund, right? She's apparently been, I think she has actually, I don't know if she's been nominated or appointed or confirmed, but she's going to be like supposedly the new ECB chairperson, right, for the European Central Bank.
Is that because I've heard of that as well. Now, is that more so possible fluff as well? Because I haven't seen many articles highlighting that subject matter apart from a few. So is that something that's been thrown out there as well as like a possible counter to President Trump's so-called recommendation?
The word is that she's totally easy money and loose monetary policy, ZERP, NERP, low interest rates, money printing, all that good stuff. But here's the thing, right? I haven't had time to investigate it yet, just with the Fed pick and with this new hyperinflation tweet I want to talk about in a minute. But with Kristen Lagarde, right, at the IMF, my point is that, because the article I was reading on Zero Hedge this morning looked like she was in fact already appointed from like Bill Blaine, but I'm not exactly sure. But here's the thing, right? The thing with the Judy Shelton pick, I think it's a distraction because what's going on with the IMF and with the Fed? If she actually she's leaving the IMF. So my point is that's taking the attention off who's going to be the next IMF, right, president? Because here's the thing. She's French, right? I think that the next person who's going to be in charge of the IMF is going to be American. And why is that going to be? Because I think that the role is going to be to defend the dollar at all costs during the dollar's death throes. I think this is where we are. So I think in order to kind of not draw attention to what's going on there, because, oh my gosh, these crazy conspiracy theorists are talking about stuff like that again, right? But to take attention off of the fact that, we might be appointing and installing a puppet who's going to defend the dollar for the deep state globalists into the IMF, then he's throwing the gold standard bugs this bone again with this Judy Shelton nomination to the Fed. Yeah. So I think there's a lot more going on than just, President Trump is trying to get things turned around for the Fed, right? I don't think that's what's going on at all.
Yeah. One of the articles.
Thoughts on that?
Yeah. So one of the articles I read in reference to the Judy Shelton, was that a couple quotes from her throughout her little career and out in the public. She referenced zero interest rates, easy money, and then gold being a staple. I'm not sure exactly how it was worded, but gold being something that's needed to. I'm not sure to help who, because my thought would be if we went back to a gold standard, then what would that price be that will make dollars redeemable for gold again? Because the person I was reading from mentioned the whole reopening the gold window, basically. And so I'm thinking they definitely can't keep that price of gold pegged. It was $42 or $42 an ounce, according to what's on the Federal Reserve balance sheet as far as gold there. So if this is all hot air, but if it was to get more attraction, what do you think the gold price would have to be if they continue to play that? Let's go back to the gold standard narrative.
Mhm. Oh, I haven't done the math in a while, but it depends how you do the math, right?
Mm-hmm.
Based on, do you want 100% backing, which I would be an advocate for? You want 80%, 40%, 20%? How much are you going to back it, right?
Yeah.
Then the other thing is, you got to bring silver in because the Constitution doesn't just talk about gold; it also talks about silver,
Yeah.
right? So I can't remember how much. I think the gold price was literally $80,000 an ounce if you cancel like all the United States debt.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember if that includes like the missing 21 trillion. Like I said, I haven't done the math in a while, but
Yeah.
we're talking about multiples higher than where it is now.
Right.
But here's the thing, right? It is a fixed price. It has to be a fixed price because it's the measure, right? Just like, 60 seconds is 1 minute, right? 12 inches is 1 foot, right? The dollar is a specific weight and purity of silver. That's it. So it's fixed. It's defined.
Yeah.
So what that price is, it depends how they would work out the math, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, that brings up an interesting point about 0% interest rates. Are you saying that like she's in favor of 0% interest rates,
So according to my knowledge, from what I read, there's some quotes that was referring to speeches or public statements she made a while back, and it was throwing 0 interest rates. And it was 3 or 4 things that they quoted her as saying, of which one of them was 0 interest rates. Well, she's for that. She's for 0 interest rates and the gold standard or something like. They try to link them both together. And so I'm thinking,
I don't even know how that's possible because my understanding is that he's nominating this, fiscal and monetary hawk to the Fed, right?
Yeah.
So, which is it, right? Because you can't have loose monetary policy and the gold standard. Right, it's like one or the other, right? Because a gold standard is the ultimate in discipline.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't know, man. I don't know what's going on. But like I said, I think it's a distraction either way.
Yeah.
Part of it because of what's happening at the IMF. I mean, there's huge changes going on right now with the ECB, with the IMF, right? Probably coming down with the BIS as well, Bank for International Settlements. So, they've got to deflect attention off of these huge, and these are, these changes are changes that are leading into the reset that we all know is coming, right? I mean, these are like huge monumental shifts.
Yeah.
So they have to divert and deflect attention off of these huge systemic shifts and put it back on the Fed.
Yeah.
So I think that's what's going on here. I'm going to take a lot of heat for saying that, but I mean, if you just look at what's going on the surface, that's the only way that I think it could be explained.
Yeah. Now, as far as the IMF, if that is if all this is like a cover-up / smokescreen for that particular position, as well as those other, conglomerates that's been put together to defend the dollar, that who do you think, any potential candidates, anybody come to mind that might be a recommended fit for that? And more than likely, they're going to have a Goldman Sachs background, but even still. Anything to come to mind that you might think might be an ideal candidate they might try to throw out there?
No, I don't. But I do know that it'll be a United States deep state globalist. That's who I think it is. Now, who it will be, I think that's the first thing that came to my mind was someone from Goldman Sachs, right? So, if I had to place money on it, which I wouldn't, I would be saying it would be someone from Goldman Sachs. Probably somebody that we haven't really heard of so that it doesn't make a huge stink in the news, right? But someone that is equally, corrupted and evil as far as the bankers go. Did you want to address some of the questions and comments in chat now that we've been on a roll here, Mike?
I will, because we got more people chiming in. And so something, I'm just thumbing through it now, but I thought this would be very interesting. It says, this is from Hugh Tran. It says, hyperinflation will be synchronized when the completion of the building the Mexican wall. And so when I put those together, economic chaos in the U.S., and how we've seen, thousands of people flooding up towards, United States of America. What's the likelihood of people wanting to get out of America, but yet being blocked in by a wall if things go to the complete hell?
I've got to say something about this, and it's just a side note. I got to throw this out there.
Go ahead.
Right? I lived in El Paso, Texas for almost 10 years, right? I've been all over the desert. I've been all to like White Sands, Missile Range, and all these other places, right? These training grounds and stuff like that, right? And where I lived in El Paso, Texas was the Northeast, and the closest grocery store from these training grounds in New Mexico was this Walmart marketplace where you could buy food. And I'm telling you, Mike, For years, right? In years, I've seen this. It's the United States government that is bringing in all of these people, and they're setting up camps in New Mexico, an hour from the Texas border with Mexico, and they're housing these people here. I don't know what it's for, but I do know this. If you've ever seen somebody from a foreign country and they look African or they look Asian or they look, that they're just, that they're not American with the clothes that they're wearing.
Yeah.
And if they're standing in the middle of a grocery store and they're just like looking around in amazement, right? Like, oh my God, what the heck is this? Look at all this food here. That's obviously somebody who's never stepped foot in an American grocery store in their entire lives. And I'm talking about, I've seen this dozens of times, multiple times, right? Yeah. This immigration crisis, right, is brought on by our own government. I personally feel that it's to create a monopoly for all the human trafficking and drug trafficking that comes across the border, right? Because government doesn't like competition.
Yeah.
But on top of that, it's been coming in for years. I don't know why. I don't know what the purpose is, right? But I've seen this. So I think the wall, it's not to keep people out. It's to keep people in, right? That's what it is. It's sealing off the United States, turning it into the prison, wrapping it with a bow and putting a flag around it saying it's all because of this flood of illegal immigrants coming to the border, right? So that's just a little side rant tangent I had to go on there, Mike.
Right. And that's one of the things, like your so-called rants are just like little nuggets of wisdom where I personally, I can understand that completely. I'm not against that. So, I hate when people talk about conspiracy theories because I'm open. My antennas are always up and open to suggestions because you never know what can be correct or what can be accurate until it's too late. But I'd rather have discussed several different possible solutions or avenues to then, put together something on my own. But yeah, definitely, I do believe that is the case. So, Hugh Tran, I appreciate you for sharing that because I believe that it could be a part of the equation as well.
And if you want, jobs, why do you need to build a job? Why can't you just hire a bunch of National Guard and put them on the border, and then you create tons and tons and tons of jobs with real human labor and be much more effective than a physical barrier? Yeah. I mean, I'm just saying, right? I'm just saying there's more than one ways to skin a mountain lion or whatever they say. Did you want to get onto address more questions and comments, or did you want to talk about the hyperinflation?
All right, so let's because I mean it looks like we have almost close to 200 people tuning in. So I think definitely the attention, we're getting more people's attention, and more people in the community are being more proactive and joining us. So I definitely want to acknowledge more people and take questions, and then we can get that as well because I definitely won't leave people out of the mix.
Look, Mark is saying he saw that exactly in Florida. And I'm telling you, right, you will know, right? It sticks out like a sore thumb if somebody has never been in a grocery store before. I mean, you just know, right? The clothes that they have are like Goodwill clothes that couldn't get sold at Goodwill, so they were donated and putting on a shipping container through USAID or something and sent to foreign countries. So they're wearing all these mismatched 1980s and 90s, which would now command a high price because it would be retro vintage, right?
Yeah.
But when you see stuff like that, what is going on here. There's this huge influx of people who have never been in this grocery store, the one that just happens to be the closest to these desolate, isolated areas in New Mexico where they're holding all these people.
Yeah.
Right. So I find that interesting that it's not just, along the border, right? Because what's the thing about Florida? That's a direct line from Central America. That's a direct line from South America, just over the Gulf of Mexico, right? So that makes complete sense, because there's not just the land border, there's water borders and all sorts of ways to get people in.
Yeah. All right. So here's a statement made by perhaps question mark. It says, the next election will be where you stand as far as thinking Trump is an illusion, a Trojan horse, or if he's really going to make some changes because this would be his last go around to do whatever he told the American public for 4 years ago or 2.5 years ago he was going to do. This will be his last go round, and therefore, people will find out if he's a man of his word or not. What are your thoughts, Paul?
Well, unfortunately, I don't see it that way. I'm sure you think I didn't, but, I don't think that people are elected, Mike.
Yeah.
I think that people are selected. And I don't think that, people say, well, my vote doesn't matter, my vote doesn't count. Guess what? That's right. It doesn't count because the person counting the vote decides who gets to win, right? Yeah. And if you control who's counting the vote, then you decide who gets elected to these elections. So I have a much more sinister view on the whole election process in and of itself. As far as being the most important, I think it comes down to this. Have they milked every single last drop of milk that they can from the average American? Have they gotten every last crumb that they can off of that table from the average American? If they have, then it's not going to be President Trump that's president. If they have not, then I think it will be President Trump that's president, because we have the greatest, most booming economy ever. So that means there's still a little bit of wealth that the deep state globalists are trying to extract from the average American before they take down the system. So I think that's what's going on. I have been thinking that he is not going to win because he's the fall guy, but I'm now starting to think that it really comes down to, has average Joe on Main Street been completely milked for every single last drop of milk that he has? I think that's what it's coming down to. So it remains to be seen. I think we're at that point right now. I don't think there's anything else you can extract from Americans. The wealth is already gone. The savings are already gone. So we're right there.
Now watch this here. And so as you mentioned, that has the average of American, or just, it's 320 million Americans, of which more than 100 million or so are probably a good portion of that population there. There's still a good chunk of wealth that has not been milked yet, and it has to do with the retirement and pensions and all those investment vehicles. So there's trillions of, I don't know, I don't remember, but there's a lot of trillions still sitting around parked in digital ledgers where people are anticipating being able to withdraw and receive funds. Those are still sitting there. And so until those have been, because I remember doing some stories a while back about how the government will basically nationalize pensions and retirement vehicles, and then give people shares in the My IRA program. Remember the My IRA that President Obama announced? And so that hasn't been getting much fanfare. So that's still a government project that is running. So is there a possible set, and then they give you IOUs?
That route, it would still be inflated away, right? So it would still be, the key word that you said is anticipating, right? I'm not anticipating getting any Social Security, right? And I'm 40 something. Yeah. I can't remember. So, but that is a good point, right? There's still those trillions of dollars sitting in those pension funds, which are severely unfunded, right? But so is that going to be the last cash grab if they have not grabbed it already? Yeah, very good point there, Mike. Valid.
Now watch this. So just as you mentioned that, they're already underfunded. So more and more people are going to be realizing that they can't receive the full payout. So there's going to be a haircut or less given, because there's happening right now. It seems like in order to give people confidence, it will be worth the, their while to say, hey, because we're having issues, the economy, this and that, whatever. What we're going to do is we're going to take over those accounts. We're going to guarantee that we give you, instead of you losing half of what you were promised, we'll give you 75% of that. So you'll still get more than you were anticipating on getting because of the economy now. So give us more of your rights and more of your freedom. We'll give you a guaranteed paycheck while we hyperinflate away. I can see something like that playing out. And people will be willing to accept that, because it's either you lose it all, you lose half, or you get a government guarantee saying we'll give you 75-80% of it within your lifespan.
Yes, good points. And remember, some of the private pension plans have already taken those kind of haircuts, right? And I can't remember this, but a couple of years back when I was researching it, you got this truck union in the Midwest. I can't remember exactly what it is. I think UPS had problems once. So yeah, there's a lot of issues with that, and you make completely valid points. And I think we will get to that point, right? Because that's what it is, right? It's just fighting over those last crumbs. Well, if I can get 50%, it's better than getting nothing. Yeah. The Dallas Police Union, that's another thing. And one of the things that you'll see that happens, though, is that people are going to start opting out, where they were like literally just draining the fund, and more people kept taking an early retirement and taking those tax hits on their pensions just so they could get something. Yeah. So there's something nasty coming with the pensions and with the retirement systems. In 2016, right, neither candidate Trump nor candidate Hillary wanted to give anybody a haircut. So everybody's going to get paid. And guess what? If everybody gets paid, then what is that money really worth, right? So good points about the pension system there.
Yeah. So a couple more people in the chat, but feel free to, we're about almost 40 minutes, give or take. So we got a couple more minutes. So want to round this thing off with our last subject matter and let you lead the way. I think it has to do with possible hyperinflation. Is that what we're going to be covering?
Possible hyperinflation. Here's a great way to protect yourself against hyperinflation. I don't know if you can see that or not.
Oh,
can
yeah,
you see that?
It's crystal clear.
That's a sunshine mint right there. That's 1 ounce. Fine 999 silver, right? SDBullion's got these on sale right now. They sponsored our show and they sent me this over. They said I got to give it back. Look, can you believe?
Oh man. Yep. So as soon as
you okay, I thought I lost you. But anyway, 69 cents over spot this week for these rounds. You can seriously get your weight up, and that is a heck of a deal. And SDBullion will match competitors' online prices, and they got free shipping, Mike. So I would be all over that. In fact, I'm going to be all over that because when I dollar cost average, I'm going to go for it this week because we just hit the first of the month, and I like to do it at the first of the month and not the end of the month. And my choice this month is going to be these Sunshine Mint rounds. It's cool, because they mint, right, for the U.S. Mint, right? They provide official planchets is what they're called for the U.S. Mint. So the only difference between this and the Silver Eagle is that it wasn't stamped by the United States Mint in its final production run. Yeah. But, on the other hand, it's got this really cool security feature that you can get a decoder for, and it says valid when you hold it just right and turn it. So it's pretty neat. Just wanted to throw that out there. 69 cents. So give the sales team a call. They would love to hear from you. Yeah, but hyperinflation. That's why I'm saying this is hours, right? Hours after Judy Shelton was supposedly nominated just this morning. Do you have that tweet where you can pull it up? Because, it's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. Yeah. So that was a tweet from just a couple hours ago.
Yeah, so from Donald Trump, let me pop it up here. Which one is it? Is it the top? Let me see here. I got the article up, hyperinflation warning. And so the tweet here from Donald Trump was as of today, correct?
Yes, this morning.
All right, let me pop it open.
Oh, yeah, I put it in the article, so you'll be able to find it right there in the article.
Yeah, so I'm waiting for it to load up. Yeah, so here we go. It's up right now. So it says China and Europe playing big currency manipulation game and pumping money into the system in order to compete with the U.S. We should match or continue being dummies. So he's basically saying that they're pumping funny money, we should be pumping funny money too.
Yeah, remember the last time we were talking about that? Literally a couple shows ago we were talking about those exact words. Pumping money, those exact same words again. I don't know how, the signals are all around. The US dollar will be hyperinflated away, right? Yeah. And here's the other thing about that. Just last month, the Treasury Department refused to recognize China as a currency manipulator, right? So, which is it? Come on. Are they a currency manipulator? Are they not a currency manipulator? Yeah. But talking about we need to match them, right? They're pumping money. If we could just be more like them, we could devalue our currency and then we could compete on trade, right? This is what's coming. The dollar will be getting a hit. We know this is coming. We know this is the end game, right? Yeah. So, the signs are all as clear as they can be. And, there's really only two things that can protect against that. And that's gold and silver because they're your hedges against inflation.
Now, and so I want to chime in on that because after having watched a little bit into the whole G20 meeting, saw some videos, saw some handshakes and stuff like that. And so, and I even having spoken to some people about the media attention. And whenever something is tweeted or however the narrative is spun from the mainstream media, it tends to drive the markets. So whether the equity markets will go up or down, so everything, the markets respond very well to social media / presidential tweets, videos, or whatever. And so I'm thinking about, this whole China Xi Jinping meeting, and prior to that meeting, they were, it was like, if you don't meet with me, then I'm gonna, tariff X 300 billion. So all these tough words, but then when we get together, he's very complimentary of him. He's a great leader. He's a great he's great. And then when you get back, you're talking about this type of stuff here. And so I'm thinking about the fact that this whole tariff situation is really starting to feel like it's a strategically designed way of causing an illusionary friction amongst nations while the U.S., turns over power as far as who's going to be driving the monetary ship moving forward. And so I'm really starting to believe more and more this whole trade tariff situation is literally us finding a way to relinquish that power or an authority in the monetary system in a way that makes it look like we're fighting for it still. And so, but in actuality, we're basically, giving reins to President Xi in China and that Eastern Hemisphere. by throwing this illusion of a war and tariffs and whatnot, because ultimately, regardless of what we're doing here, Russia and China are already building infrastructure. They already got the One Belt, One Road ready to roll out. And so all that's already there. It just needs to be cut on. And so I'm really starting to believe this whole trade war is a bunch of hogwash, and that whatever comes from these tweets or whatever are irrelevant, because he's responsible for basically handing the keys over in a way that makes it look like we're not just giving it away, you know? So that's just my little thoughts on that.
Yeah. It reminds me of like that, that like in World War II, like when the Germans surrendered and they just marched in the uniform all like full of pride and stuff. But, they were surrendering, right? That's what they were doing.
Yeah.
I think you make good points. We're talking about the rise of the multipolar world, right? So, this is a process, right? And World War I and in World War II, if you would have asked the Brits, what's going to happen to the pound sterling, I don't think they would be like, well, the dollar's going to replace it. What do you think's going to happen? No, they would have been like, the pound sterling, God save the pound sterling, right? You know what I mean? So, I think that you make some valid points there. It's interesting about this trade war because, I bought corn this weekend for 8 ears of corn for $1, right? Yeah. I don't even remember the last time I bought 8 ears of corn for $1, right? Yeah. I mean, if I buy 4 ears of corn for $1, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is a massive sale.
Yeah.
So here's the thing, right, that I see with the trade war. Because we keep hearing about all this farm devastation, which is real, right? All of these floods and all this and all that. Yeah. And we keep hearing about all of this harvest that is not able to get planted and that's not going to be coming in on time. But here's the thing, right? Even with the trade war going on, it's still set up, in my opinion, where goods are still coming into the United States cheap, right? And whatever is not being exported, like, for example, if there's not as much corn that's being exported, because the United States is the #1 corn exporter in the world, right? Then, even though there's all this devastation with all this flooding in the Midwest, you've still got, to offload that corn. So, this is a reciprocal part of the trade war. And it's bad in and of itself, too, because not only do you have the flooding and the devastation affecting the harvest, but now you've also got the fact that, well, if you can't export it, you have to get pennies on the dollar for it. And then a half dollar can buy 80 ears for $1 at the grocery store for his 4th of July picnic. You know what I mean? So, the trade war, there are things where another thing is people think, well, how does the trade war affect me or how doesn't it affect me? Well, that's the way that it affects you right there, But what is it leading to? Yes, I think that you provide valid points, right? Because part of it is, a confidence game. Yeah. And if there's going to be any kind of confidence at all in the dollar so that it doesn't completely go poof, right? Which I think is not a possibility. Yeah. Then, like you said, it has to look like, we're fighting until the very end and, well, we put up a good fight. What can we say? We got to let China have their space in the East now. Yeah. So, those are definitely valid points. And, what is going to be the end result of it? Well, I think it will be the multipolar world that will ultimately find different nations going back, as we always do, to gold and silver in one way or another. Yeah. So,
I do agree. Well, Paul, it's been about 45 minutes of us going back and forth. It's always great to connect with you and get your thoughts on a variety of subject matter. We got about 200 and something people watching, so I'm not sure what our high is, but for everyone who has hung around this entire time, we appreciate you for joining in. And I would love to get to some more comments, but it looks like it's turned into a crypto fest over there, so I'm gonna let that rest. But what I want to do, definitely bring to your attention the Silver Doctors shirt. So for those that are interested in being a part of the community and want to not only talk the talk but wear the talk, as far as your support of the Silver Doctors channel, feel free to scroll below to a link and you can see the shirt right here to my side. You can definitely get your shirt there to be a part of the community and support the channel. And then, Paul, any last thoughts you want to leave us with before we sign off for before the 4th of July, which is tomorrow?
Happy 4th of July, everybody. I've been saying that over the past few years. For me, it's been bittersweet, right? Because I think that we don't have we don't have the constitutionally required bimetallic silver standard anymore. So how much liberty do we really have when it comes to the most essential ingredient of a nation, which is its money?
Right.
But I will say this: I do think that this week is the most pivotal week of the year so far in 2019 for gold and silver. I think that the cartel has everything on their advantage to smash price, right? With low trading volumes, so they can come in and carpet bomb the market in off hours like they like to do, right? Also, the fact that the jobs report is coming out on Friday, right? I think it's going to be a low number because it's going to feed into the interest rate cuts. We'll have to see. Either way, they'll be able to spin it where it's going to be bad for gold one way or another. So if there was any most important time for the cartel to smash, wouldn't it be right now after gold's made this massive breakout to multi-year highs? And if they can't smash and if they're not successful this week, what does that mean for gold and silver going into next week? I think that we are really at the sea change and we are at the turn in the metals here. So, we'll have to see. But even though it's a short week, even though that it's a holiday week, it's still a week that has just been full of excitement as we've seen so far, Mike.
Yeah, I would agree. So we will see. And so definitely come next week, we'll be back here to talk about it and discuss what has happened in our time frame. So other than that, everybody be blessed. Enjoy your holiday weekend. And definitely we'll see you guys next week. Same time, same place. Be blessed. Peace.